I'm sick of all the teacher bashing. How many of you had disinterested parents and had your life course significantly altered by a teacher? I spent most of my junior year of high school hanging outside my teacher's classroom, trying to work up the courage to tell her I'd been thinking about killing myself. Toward the end of that year, when my dad lost his job and we had to move, my teacher placed the most beautiful letter I've ever read on my desk and asked if I could forward it to my parents. In it, she graciously offered to house me until graduation, almost a full year. I started crying at my desk. With some convincing, my parents accepted, and what followed was the most emotionally educational experience of my life. I don't want to get into details, but her husband and her were much better parents than mine. It's been almost a decade, but I still think of them every day. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, though my parents didn't set the bar very high, I owe my life to my teacher. Last year I was constantly feeling like crap. I convinced my parents to let me ditch school for 2 days. When I came back and went to history class, my teacher just walked over and said, "Good to see you back. Hope you're doing okay," and gave me a nice smile. It was so kind and sincere, I instantly felt so much better. Another time I had left class early to go talk with the counselor. When we had class the next day, he asked me to stay after. He handed me my test, gave me a fist bump, and said, "Great job, you kicked butt." Finally, on the trip to Model UN, he tossed me a CD. It was a blues disc. I instantly became obsessed. "Thanks Mr. N. You kick butt." I read that as gave me my first bump, and was like, whoa, I don't think that's what OP had in mind by life-changing influence. My AP Chem teacher, who was a long-term sub, which is a whole other story, may have literally saved my life. She correctly diagnosed my heart condition simply from hearing a list of symptoms, whereas the multiple doctors I'd seen by that time hadn't determined anything despite all the monitors I had to carry around. I know this isn't quite the type of anecdote fitting for this thread, but really, this was just the pinnacle of her awesomeness. I've had a lot of great teachers who I would consider influential or even life-changing, but she was the only life-saving teacher I've had. I had given up halfway through my freshman year in high school. My brain fizzled out. I had 3 more years of balls to go through and I was suicidally depressed. I didn't know what to do. My dad suggested I take new easier classes. He also implied that if I joined choir he would give me $20. Easy choice. I joined choir sophomore year. I thought it would be an easy A and I got $20 out of the deal. Our school had a student teacher teaching alongside our normal choir teacher because he was leaving near the end of the year. The student teacher was the epitome of a jolly fat guy. He looked like Chris Farley and did the best impression of Chris Farley I've ever seen. He took over halfway through the year and I could never have been more happier. He would listen to you and then offer advice. He would pull a single student into his office during downtime just to watch some stupid YouTube video. You could hear his laughter halfway across the school. He'd guide you to places you never thought were possible, while helping you get there. He was the type of person who got an entire room full of 100 choir students quiet to scorn them, then let out the loudest fart imaginable, then start a song immediately afterwards with the biggest crap-eating grin on his face. When we had a song down well enough to just take a day off and do other homework, he could be seen playing his banjo in his office, with his feet on his desk, shoes off, and a blade of wheat dangling out of his mouth. He was the coolest freaking teacher ever, and it changed me from suicidally depressed to optimistic and lighthearted. He got over half of the school to join choir, half of the football team to join, that being a state championship winning one too, at least twice while I was in high school. He turned this run-of-the-mill, goody two-shoes need only apply choir program into something everyone could be amazing at and enjoy. Coolest teacher ever. Changed my life forever. My teacher for AP History told us straight off the bat, "Most of you have skated to this point. You're smart and you don't care that you can do better. Well, in this class, you're going to have to try." And he was absolutely right. I skated through life, not just school. After his classes I started to give more of a crap in my own work and his teaching and philosophy have stuck with me for years. I cannot count the number of teachers who have said this to me, then proceeded to not live up to it. I had an inspiring teacher band, who caused me to believe that I was capable of anything, sitting in the back row with no confidence my 8th grade year. By the time I was a senior I was capable of anything. It's because of him I became a teacher and have to put up with all this administrative bulls that often keeps me from being able to do the same. Parents really didn't give a frick. So, teachers helped out a lot. I wouldn't be who I am without my teachers. They rocked. Same situation. Teachers recognized me when parents wouldn't. Now that I look back, I had very interested parents, older siblings and teachers that went out of their way to support me academically, yet I still turned out like a piece of crap. It's never too late to do something. My HSAP chemistry teacher was the best person I have ever known. All of these years later, there are still things that she said that I think about. Like Johnny Utah Busey said, she did not care about the AP test. In fact, she tried to talk anyone out of taking the test. She thought if you were going to be a science major, you should take the class again in college. She was a tough teacher. I have a PhD, and there is only one graduate class that I worked harder in than that AP Chem class. But such a good teacher. My college Chem prof offered me a tutoring position after our first test when he saw my performance. She was the first person that really sat down with me and helped me plan my future. I had great, supportive parents, but they really did not know how to help me plan. Plus, even though she was a hard butt, she was also like a grandmother. I don't know how she pulled it off so well. For the most part, though, I had great teachers, ones that stand out. My first grade teacher, 6th grade junior high art, junior high band, junior high geometry, junior high biology, HS band, AP English 2, AP European history, AP US history, HS physics. Those are the ones that come to mind in grade school. I found this fun. My mother saw my first grade teacher, over 30 years ago, in the grocery store and she remembered me, gave very specific details. Age 7. Teacher abuses me physically, pulling hair in a sneaky way, after accusing she doesn't know what I mean, let me seem like I'm crazy, beats me after class, mom says I should behave, does nothing. Age 8. Getting bullied. I get bad grades. Mom beats me, stronger than usual, shoes, sticks, fists are excellent tools for this, expects that I get better at school, I won't. Age 8. 14. Teachers see that I develop a strong urge to write stories, poems, etc. This probably happened because mom doesn't like to talk to me. I am the only person that knows how she naturally is. She is an amazing actress, let me tell you, and that I have a tendency to learn languages in a rather quick way. Teacher tells mom to promote my only talent. Person seems reasonable at parent-teacher conference that is somehow not mom. Has money to buy booze and cigs but none for books, school equipment. In an environment where cultural and academic ignorance is much valued, random beatings take place, which are executed by someone that doesn't seem to understand that a 30 years old stroke of fist has no business in a 11 years old face, where beauty is defined in a sick way. Even excellent teachers can almost do nothing to improve a malfunctioning system. It is always the parent's fault. Invariably. I was 13 when I learned that there were other standards. Homes where no beatings took place, where the parents actually spoke to their children and taught them useful stuff, and those children were doing way better than me. It is always the parents. Always. Don't blame the teachers. And you know what the funny part is? I can't even really blame mom for not caring. She simply didn't know any better. For she wasn't raised any different than she raised me or my sister. She thought it was the right thing to do. Dumb people raise dumb people. I'm just glad that I broke that cycle. It was my teachers which showed me the right way. My children will have it good. I did. My parents were too busy working day and night to pay any attention to me. I started out high school failing every subject, and ended up transferring as a result. When I got to my new high school I had two teachers that had a huge impact on me. Both were social studies teachers. The first teacher I had was in the lowest ranking class you could be in. No honors students here. Trust me. He noticed that I wasn't stupid, just disinterested. He encouraged me to push myself to be better. He would tell me that I wasn't like the other students, that I was intelligent and that I could do this. I turned my grades around and by the end of the year he recommended that I be placed in an AP class, top ranking above honors. In that AP class I met a teacher who even made a greater impact on me and I will never forget him. He told me I was the most talented student he ever had and I could do anything I put my mind to. I had like a 98 average in his class and spent time tutoring the other supposedly genius kids. Before these two teachers no one had ever told me these things. I ended up turning my grades around in all my classes and going to college. I have a 3.8 GPA right now. I'm graduating in 3 months and I already have a job at a major company. Thanks guys. Clap. My parents only cared enough that I wasn't being a burden to them. As long as I got at least C's they really didn't care. They would go to parent-teacher meetings and appear to really care. But once we got home things like homework weren't important. What was important was that I was their slave. Seriously. I don't think my mother got her own glass of water for at least 3 years. I was fetching that, cooking dinner, cleaning the house etc. So homework got done either at school before I got home, or between 10 PM and whenever I went to bed. Teachers were more concerned with the disruptive buttholes in the class with the exception of my freshman English teacher. She at least encouraged reading non-class assigned material. Beyond that, I can't think of a single teacher that went out of their way to help me. The problem is that teachers tend to give a lot more attention to the poorest and strongest students, many of which have behavior problems. I didn't have disinterested parents. On the contrary, they loved me to pieces. But I was extremely energetic and sensitive when I was little. I'd finish my work first and not know what to do with myself. My first grade teacher was horrible. She'd put me down and tore at my self-confidence. I cried a lot. When I reached second grade, my teacher was wonderful. She was encouraging and always kept me busy. She and I would give each other hugs of the day, instead of crying. I felt confident. I still see her jogging around the town sometimes. And we always exchange hugs when I do. Ah, Mrs. DeBella, you took an interest in me and always thought there was something special with me. You even took me to Target and bought me clothes when you saw me coming to school in the same rags every day. You made me feel like somebody cared. I'll never forget you for that. I've been reading Reddit for 2 years now and I finally made an account just to respond to this. My mom is a middle school science teacher and she has worked in some pretty rough schools in the past. When she sees a kid from a bad neighborhood but with a special talent, she tries to get them into a specialty school with scholarships. For example, last year she got a student into a high school for the arts after seeing some of his artwork. She also gives out points for good behavior, turning in homework on time etc and then has a raffle of prizes for the points. She had a student who had a ton of siblings and no money at home and he saw that one of the prizes was a basketball and during the raffle he saved all his points for it and someone else managed to outbid him. My mom bought many basketballs the next prize day and made sure he got one. When she was right out of school she worked in downtown Orlando and many students couldn't afford pens, pencils, paper etc so she managed to get a few office supply stores to donate supplies for her students. She still gets letters from many of her students who have grown up and have kids of their own now. Some teachers really care. I watched my mom work until midnight many nights coming up with the best science experiments, grading papers, and thinking of new ways to get students to actually like science and connect with the material. And most interesting to me, I'm an engineering major now and in my Gen Chem class we did an exact experiment my mom does with her students in middle school. You only need one good teacher to turn a life around, and I truly believe every school has at least one good teacher, but the bad seem to outnumber the good at the moment. But the bad seem to outnumber the good at the moment. Perhaps that's just because the teachers proportionally represent the population. My first grade teacher taught me the most important lesson of my life. To introduce our MLK Junior unit, she set up an in-class simulation where she separated 4 students and called them stupid and idiots for not doing well on their math exams. They were forced to sit in the corner, excluded from the rest of the class while we planned a party in which they wouldn't be allowed to take part. I was bothered by the transformation I saw in my teacher and my fellow peers. At first they looked at the 4 excluded students with concern. but soon they joined her in mocking them and laughed at the things she said. I did not. I couldn't stop looking at them. Finally, my little first grade self suggested that maybe we could include them too. I liked the idea of the party. I felt very uncomfortable with how my teacher was acting. My teacher mocked my idea, called it stupid and told me I was ridiculous. I didn't realize, but she was attempting to get the other students to stick up for me, side with me. I felt deeply hurt, but after a couple seconds I said it again. I wanted the other students included too. She continued to mock me and them, and when I looked over at the corner, I saw one of the boys wipe his eyes. He was crying. I couldn't stand it. I thought I respected my teacher, but look what she had done. It wasn't right. I was little, but I knew that, and none of my classmates seemed to give a dang. I became louder, more insistent. They could retake the test later. They should join us. We couldn't have a party without them. Finally, my teacher stopped the simulation. She went over to the four in the corner and comforted them, all of who were crying. My peers looked slightly stunned. Then she came back and sat in front of us and pointed to me and said that I had acted like MLK. I had stood up for my friends when I knew something was wrong and I hadn't allowed myself to compromise my morals. She gave me a sticker and sent us home. I will always remember her. She gave me the greatest lesson of my life. Anytime I've been afraid to stand up for something or someone, I think of that teacher and that day. I have never been prouder of myself. No one has ever taught me something so important. What? That's freaking horrible. I am a teacher and it's nice to be appreciated because we never get any credit, it feels like, anymore. We keep getting blamed for all the educational ills that plague the education system, but we have our hands tied in how we have to teach a lot of things. Parents often think that because the kids are going to school that the education ends there and they shouldn't have to deal with it. Learning does not end when you leave the classroom, but parents today want to take a hands-off approach. I once had a parent write me a letter telling me that her daughter wrote her essays funny and wanted me to work on it with her. It was a fine request, except I knew that the mother was an English professor at a university and was technically more qualified than I was, and it frustrated me that she wouldn't offer to help, as I have 100 other students, each with their own problems that I have to deal with. And if one of those problems persists even though I try my best and really work with the student, a crap storm will ensue as the parent will call my supervisor and bring heck down on me. As a parent, I have seen this happen and agree with you. You don't need to be a teacher to significantly alter the lives of youth. Volunteering, i.e. Big Brother Sister programs, coaching, tutoring, etc. Anyone has the potential to be a positive presence for the younger members of the community. A lot of teachers are great and do have an impact on their students. It's a paid job well done. When I was in high school, my parents had another surprise kid. When my baby brother was 2, my mom severely broke her leg and was in the hospital while dad was taking care of my brother. My European history teacher came to my school play every night when she found out my parents couldn't make it. She also came to the Thespian Awards after the last night of the play to see me honored for my work for the drama department that year. It was so nice to know that there was someone there to see me. I'll never forget it. My parents never really encouraged me. They just told me to do better. I mostly have my 2nd grade teacher to thank for where I am today. She even sent me a card when I graduated from high school. Strange that she still had my address, but it shows that she was a very caring teacher. Now retired, I now have a degree in computer engineering and the future is looking bright. Is teacher bashing really an issue? I think for the most part teachers get a good amount of praise for their hard work, especially the ones that really deserve it. Am I just ignorant to the problem of teacher bashing? I've never come across it in a wide scope. I love teachers, so much so I'm becoming one myself. I believe that one good teachers can make all the difference in the world to a single student. I want to be one of those teachers. I'm kind of the same as everyone else posting here. I was basically a B student through elementary, junior high and freshman year of high school. But my 9th grade English teacher took it upon himself to recommend I get placed in his AP course. Now I'm currently taking all AP courses, have straight A's and care more about my own education. Glad you learned something. My parents were parents first. friends second as I got older. Not something I see a lot of today. In other words, they beat my butt when I did something bad, expected me to learn and be responsible, helped me when I needed help, and didn't coddle me. My dad taught me that life is not fair, and you need to work for what you want, and nothing is free. Told me to get the frick out of the house at 18 if I wasn't going to college. Then I joined the military, saw the world and how fricked up it is, and realized I had the benefit of very involved parents who cared and how lucky I was to be born in the US and that freedom is not free. I've had several outstanding teachers in my lifetime, but most were there just to do a job. The teachers are not paid nearly enough for what they do, but neither are most good cops or other public servants in comparison to sports figures or CEOs. And I get it. The current crap in Wisconsin, Ohio is an attack by the rich against the working class. I love the 1880s robber barons by using their Republican Tea Party stooges. But the governments are broke because we have not been taxing the rich like we should be. They have outmaneuvered the tax laws and governments with their lobbyists, so they are trying to frame it as public workers who are getting too much. But we got a good crop of non-critical thinking sports watching drones here in America. Both parents too busy trying to make money at a living wage that has not kept up with CEOs' pay. I do have hope for the transparency that the whole WikiLeaks Arab revolt might provide, but the string pullers that we have in this country don't like it when people think, because they lose their power base over the ignorant suckers, birthers, moral majority, religious whackers etc. Parents are a problem, but excellent educators can still make a big difference. Parents are a symptom. Culture is the problem. When educated people are vilified as the liberal elite or for being nerds or for acting white, it dissuades kids from becoming educated. Disinterested parents are just another generation whose culture failed them. You know why there is so much teacher bashing? Including college. I have had 3. 1 HS, 1 technical, 1 college. Teachers who are not complete jack-offs and actually cared for the students. I mean, I can remember all the way back to kindergarten or whatever the name of it is, to the first time I had a problem with a teacher. The short version, some kid asked me who God or Jesus was, something along those lines, and I said no. He replied, "You're going to heck," along with a few other kids, over and over. I then told the teacher this, and this has stuck in my head forever. Don't be such a tattletale. This isn't in the South either. From there on I had, like I said, only a few good teachers. For some context, I am white. I never got in trouble, ever. Decent grades and was on homecoming court. So I'm not the stereotypical person who you would think didn't get along with people. So I apologize if I do not like most teachers. My experience in a typical public education system fuels this. The anti-union sentiment in our country is just another indicator of how stupid we have become. We are willing to turn on institutions that support the middle class than face the real problems in our economy, and those who are against pensions should be against social security, too. But I am not going to start on that. Let me focus only on teachers. Teachers work their butt off, and I am sure there are a few examples of teachers who slack off and or do reprehensible things, but they are few and far between. Most teachers work over 8 hours a day. Most teachers serve as a role model to kids who have none, and most don't do it for the money. If you keep taking away benefits from teachers, you won't draw in good talent. Look at Finland, whose test scores rank among the highest in the world. How do they stay successful? They pay and respect their teachers. As a result, the best and brightest apply for positions. And before people say that the US does poorly when ranked with other countries, consider this: the US educates everyone. In Connecticut, where I live, less than 1% of the student population is exempt from statewide testing. The fact of the matter is that education is hard work and more of an art than it is a science. Those who are anti-union, anti-teacher should take a look at the situation and think about how our country will fare if we continue to devalue our educational system. It is possible to be anti-teachers union and pro-teachers. Of course, I am defining teacher as good teachers. The bad teachers need to find new careers. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.